Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
Hi, this is Eric.
This is Carl.
And this is Caleb.
And that's right, it is episode 61 of Romulans Bearing Gifts, continuing with the next episode of season 2 of Discovery. We're now on to episode 5. We're still back, reliving the glory days of 2019. And this is probably the episode that came out as we were really hearing about COVID coming to the United States. And this is, of course, Saints of Imperfection. My gosh, that is a title for a Discovery episode. Maybe a little bit too close.
It's too close to home for the show.
Yeah, a little bit too on the nose. But going back to the old conversation about episodic versus serial, I mean, because this episode definitely follows right after the previous one. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
That being said, though, they still feel episodic, even though they are so connected. I mean, they're still self-contained. This isn't really part 1, part 2, per se.
Yeah.
Even though they're connected in the middle. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's the hybrid model.
Right. I didn't know what to call it, but and I think that's fine. Personally, for shows like Star Trek or the Star Wars shows, series, whatever, I tend to prefer the hybrid model as opposed to straight serial or serialization. I mean, that's my taste. So yeah, this follows directly, and we catch up to Spock's shuttle that they had been pursuing, and Spock pops out. Oh my gosh. No, he doesn't. We gotta continue with our green balls. Waiting for the titular figure to show himself.
Lovely imagery on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you see, no, I a good old friend in podcasting. I wasn't going to name Louis Trapani of Podshock fame. I remember when Star Trek 2009 came out, and I remember one of his biggest issues of contention in that movie was there's some shots of Spock on Vulcan, like at the time when he's young adult Spock, or maybe even the youthful Spock as well. But there's some very clear shots where the sun in the background is passing through, like it's in the backdrop of the scene, so it goes through Spock's ears, and you can clearly see like the reddish glow, like through like his ears, and Louis Trapani, he just could not get over why it was a reddish hue as opposed to a greenish hue, because we all know that they're green-blooded. But it clearly looks like Spock has red blood coursing through his ears. I don't know. You just I don't know. Memory unlocked.
All right.
But Tilly gets sucked in to the mycelial network.
Mycelial.
Yeah.
Which is still not a thing I fully comprehend. I might just go with it, because I feel like if I go down that rabbit hole, probably nothing good will come from it. I don't know though, so that's why I've never really fully investigated the concept.
I did just want to jump onto that because I will say I think this stuff is interesting in these 2 episodes here. I've never been fully pulled into that part of this Discovery universe, and I don't know why it is that this element doesn't fascinate me more. It just seems just kind of odd for Star Trek for some reason. I feel like maybe they could convince me that it's a really cool part of the universe. But spending so much time in this episode, I was just like, it's just not hitting quite right again.
I think I know why. And we were talking about it in the last episode. This whole thing feels more like fantasy than sci-fi. And when we watch Star Trek, and when I watch sci-fi in general, the thing that I really like about science fiction is that there is a logical bridge between what we know now and where they are at some point in the future. The technology gives us a plausible bridge to connect. Even though it can be fantastic things, you can see how a lightsaber can work, how photon torpedoes can work, how warp engines can work. There's sort of an aspirational technological bridge between the science and technology that we know and where we can go in the series. That's why I have trouble with retro future sci-fi, because you're overlapping something that should be going in the same direction already. That's, problematic. When they threw in the concept of the mycelial network, they threw some kind of concept that seems separate from unapproachable, realistic technology. I'm all about biotech. I understand all this other stuff, but to have us imagine that the engine and the propulsion of a future spaceship would run on a biological, multi-dimensional fabric, that's going a little far. It's just going. I mean, I'm trying to extend my mind into. It's a beautiful place to see. It is an interesting idea, but in terms of a science fiction, a tangible connection between technologies that we know and what could be possible in the future, to me, that's too far. It's like, ghosts and fantasy and stuff like that. Even ghosts I can see is more of a realistic, scientific thing. So, once again, if you were watching science fiction to see unapproachable potential technology for the future, that is not what this concept of the mycelial network is about. It's an interesting idea. It is a fantastical place to experience, but there's nothing that can connect any kind of technology or consistent idea into what it is that they've created there. And so, once again, if you are watching this and your focus is emotion and your focus is on characters and your focus is on dynamics and not any kind of grounding in potential technological possibility, well then, the idea of a ship running on tardigrades and mushrooms is perfectly acceptable, and, we can just roll with that. But if you like spaceships, technology, physics, and that kind of thing, it is a bit jarring to make it the anchor of what we would traditionally think of as a sci-fi show that's supposed to be taking us into future technology.
So, can someone actually explain to me what the mycelial network? Okay, not the mycelial network, but this place where Tilly gets transported to in the episode, which I guess is the mycelial network. Can someone explain exactly how that's supposed to work if we just accept it as is in the story? And before you answer, if someone has an answer, because right off the bat, it reminds me of several different things from other franchises. Mm-hmm. Like it reminds me of like the Upside Down and Stranger Things.
Always very polleny in these places. So yes,
it reminds me of when Frodo puts on the ring in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
It reminds me of like kind of like is it like the quantum realm in the most recent Ant-Man movie?
Quantumania. Yep.
Yeah. Or something else that pops into my mind. Does it function like the Nether in Minecraft? I don't know if either of you is familiar with playing Minecraft, because my brain is interpreting it like the Nether in the game Minecraft. But that's just me just going with it and not questioning it too much. But does either one of you know exactly what it's supposed to represent or how it's supposed to function? Even if it is magic, what is the magic that's happening?
Yeah, and before Carl answers, 'cause hopefully he has an answer, I'll say, and I'm also curious, is it all a landmass that you could walk on? Because I was baffled that Tilly and May were just like hanging out on a surface somewhere. I was like, I didn't realize that I thought that this was just like another dimension in a different type of space. I didn't realize it was like a planetary surface or just any sort of surface. So you got anything, Carl, for us with this one?
Not really. Because it's so ridiculous. It's hard for me to wrap a conceptual mind around it. I was initially with you all where I believed that it was like subspace.
Yeah.
Right. It was a kind of subspace.
Yes, that's correct.
So it would have been minimally an open, an open space to try to imagine that, Tilly's friend's planet was in there, maybe, and that they were, they impacted her planet in that alternate dimensional space is a possibility, but the concept of a planet grounds it more than what they had been leading us to believe up until this point. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and when the Discovery, when it switches and it's like poking out of the sky,
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make it seem like it was a planet. It just seemed like it was poking into this realm, wherever this is.
Yep.
And that's what made it weird.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's poking into the realm, and then also that particular part of the realm.
And of course, they walk across the hull to get in the ship.
Yeah.
So the ship is straddling the two realms. Where is everybody? Well, apparently you can see stuff, but not beings from the other realm. It was, this to assume that Star Trek fans are not going to dissect a tangible, scientific space. You got to give them something to hang on to, though. This is not, we can build all kinds of concepts about how warp drive works and what subspace is and how dilithium works. This is all the fun of what, Trek fans have projected into the physics world and in science and technology, to then give them the fantasy world that is the mycelial network and go, here you go, Trek fans, go with that. They're going to take it because look, we can't build a concept around it. Why was it like half of the ship in and out like that? If it was subspace, was it intersecting? Where were they walking before they got to the ship hull? All of this stuff just sort of evaporates and you're just, punching vapor because it's just, you got nothing to ground it with. So,
I'm reading over the Memory Alpha log, which simultaneously explains and further confounds like understanding the mycelial network, because like they describe it's supposed to be a microscopic web that's in subspace. It's microscopic, but it goes throughout our entire universe, which is already weird to wrap your mind around. But then again, once you're in it, you only need to, you can virtually connect anywhere, like in the network, like almost instantaneously, which is kind of like how subspace works in Star Trek and other great sci-fi novels. Most of them depend on, interstellar ones mostly depend on something like subspace. Otherwise, you'd never be able to communicate, at astronomical distances. So it kind of works like subspace, the communication method, except you're actually able to pop out somewhere else. And like I said, the reason I think about it in Minecraft, I don't know if either of you have played that game, but in Minecraft, when you go into the Nether realm, like you build a portal here, in our world, in the real world. You go through the portal, you're in the netherworld, and let's say you take 5 steps in the netherworld and then build another portal and go through it. You will have traversed like half a kilometer in the real world. So that's how you can use the nether as like fast travel in the game, because you just have, if you go this far, it's a multiplier of how far you're actually traveling in the quote unquote real world. So I just try to think of it like that, because I can understand that, even though I know it's not apples to apples. But it's even more confounding though to think that it's microscopic.
Yeah.
So that would make it seem like it would take 100-fold longer to get to some. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the inverse of what you think it is. Like if you're thinking of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Hey, we want to cross the lawn. Okay, let's shrink down to the size of an ant, and then somehow we'll get there 10 times faster. What? Like, it's like, oh my god, it's crazy. All right, I'm glad I cleared that up.
Yeah, and so Tilly's supposed to be microscopic when she's okay. Well,
that's why it was also related to the quantum realm, because they're supposed to be infinitesimally tiny, like to where they're actually in another dimension in Ant-Man. And
but if they're supposed to be microscopic, then why are they 1-to-1 with the dimensions of the ship when it shows?
Yes, 100%.
This, you see, I mean, you gotta give us something to work with. If we are supposed to be like in an energy realm, then why would they be embodied once they were walking around the ship? Tilly's touching buttons and things on the console. It's just it's a stretch, to try to maintain this stuff. Like I said, when it's fantasy, you don't have to make sense out of things. But if it's supposed to be sci-fi, there's got to be some thread that connects things together, and I have not been able to find that with what they've done with the mycelial network.
And to make it worse, we have this character of May as our only into the universe, the only person who can give us kind of a face for it and explain it. And I don't think she helps to flesh it out, really. They come up with this somewhat silly plot with the Doctor's ex-boyfriend or maybe husband. I don't remember that character's name. And he's been burning stuff up, and so she's just on like a kill crazy rampage for him. And I don't feel like that makes the world more fascinating. It kind of shrinks it. It almost feels like this one guy is causing all this damage. It just makes it seem smaller to me.
Well, we needed Doc Colbert to come back, so that was supposed to be an emotionally powerful thing, that we reveal that the monster in this realm ends up being the crew member that we thought had died. So that is a big emotional thing. However, given the context of what is going on, it's a little difficult to reconcile all of this.
No, it is, and I mean, if I had the time and will, I would go back to the last episode featuring Dr. Culber, which I never knew his name was Dr. Culber. I'm sorry.
I forgot. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that's the name that would go with his character. I can't think of it. I always think of him as being in My So-Called Life, the 90s coming of age series. And by the way, I always loved that the actor was part of Discovery and is part of Discovery. I always loved that aspect. And when they killed him off, that was a gut punch for me. Because at that point in the series, he was probably my favorite character. At the point that they culled him. And so I definitely wanted him to come back. I can't remember if I knew that was happening or if that was just a hope or a wish. But certainly if there was anybody I wanted to return, it would have been him. So yes, the ultimate payoff I love. But I guess we'll get to that eventually. So some of the things I want to say about this episode are at the top, and things I wanted to say in the previous episode, but it all applies. When this first aired back in 2019 and season 1 before it, In the United States, if you were watching on CBS All Access back then, you can only watch it in regular HD. You didn't have any other streaming options. But for international viewers on Netflix at the time, they were able to watch this like in 4K UHD at the time. That always bothered me that international audiences could get that and we couldn't in the United States. Well, fast forward to now with current Paramount Plus, and now we can. I can finally watch this series in Dolby Vision, and I have to say, it doesn't hurt at all visually that I get to watch it in Dolby Vision. And I want to say, watching these 2 episodes recently, they are gorgeous. They are, which is similar to there being gorgeous episodes of Strange New Worlds and Picard season 3. It amazes me. Some of the cinematography on the ship, outside of the ship, in outer space, like it's still incredible the budget they had, and I guess a lot of it was Netflix money in retrospect, because like spoiler for Caleb, but the budget's going to get cut in season 3, and it's going to get even more cut in season 4, and I don't even know what's going to happen with the already announced final season 5. As far as budget goes. But I felt the budget cuts, even though they still do a lot with what they got in the future. But anyway, so I love the look of it. I mean, the lighting and everything, even though it is over the top, like all the different lights. I mean, there's got to be like 1,000 different light sources, like on the bridge alone. If you count all the little LEDs and every other light source, it's phenomenal. And there were some crazy scenes in the previous episode, like when Saru and Burnham were having their talks with, like, I don't know how they make that golden hour, like inside the ship, like with the light source outside of the ship coming through the windows. They do it a lot in modern TV Trek now, but it still looks amazing. That said, I still pretty much hate whenever they switch to shaky cam, or even the handheld, which is not as shaky, but still often feels unnecessary. And I can't remember if it was more in the previous episode or this one, but there was scenes when characters are speaking on the bridge and everything's supposed to be real serious. And I hate the technique of kind of swooping around, like where the camera kind of like arcs around characters, and then they have fast cutting as well. And I just absolutely hate that stuff. It works sometimes in some of the Abrams films when they do that, but on TV Trek, honestly, less is more. Less is more when it comes to this stuff on the newer shows.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate the TNG style. Just the flat filming.
I don't need to go that far, though.
I know.
I think they found better balance with Strange New Worlds and Picard season 3. We talked about it on the episode, some of the episodes we've already done on Picard. They still can't help them, but they're much more controlled and restrained in 2023 Trek versus 2019. And so, yeah, I just wanted to get that out there because I couldn't stop thinking about the gorgeous visuals while them trying their hardest to screw it up at the same time.
Yep.
And also the miscellaneous, or at some point, I'm going to have to get that tattooed on my arm so I remember how to say it. But also, it's not funny, but it's very green screeny, which is fine. But if they did it nowadays, 2022, 2023, I bet they would have gone for some volume action. Because they definitely use it a lot in Strange New Worlds, the volume, and here and there in Picard. And I don't know what would have worked better for this particular plane of existence. If the green screen is better than the volume, I don't really know. It depends how you do it.
I just want to briefly back you up about the camera action. I think it can be a little overwhelming, as usual, a little heavy-handed. However, I think if your writing is strong, it's less noticeable. One of our ongoing beefs with Discovery is they don't take enough time to emotionally connect you with what they're trying to do. So they use all this other stuff. They use the shaking camera, they use the swooping motion, they use the arcing music to try to tell you what you should be feeling versus what you actually, should be, resonating with the characters. So it's particularly noticeable because you're like, I'm not there yet. And the camera is doing all of this, and the music is doing all of that, and the light is doing all that. And you're like, I'm not there yet. This isn't quite, resonating with me. So that's the other issue. When you're saying Abrams was a big fan of all of that action and moving with the cameras, and technically we can take it back to Farscape too. I actually kind of liked it. I loved it on Farscape because there was the nutty moonlighting like banter that kind of connected with all of that stuff. Same thing with Abrams. I would feel the camera motion, but it synchronized more with what you felt and what the characters were doing.
Yeah, I agree.
They haven't quite got it right with Discovery. So then it becomes exaggerated and it becomes, forced noticeable because it doesn't quite synchronize with what you're feeling quite yet.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, and just to focus on something that's kind of there, but they just don't highlight it right. I kind of like the element that the Discovery crew, using this new technology that they don't fully understand, don't realize the kind of environmental impact that they're causing. Them messing around with this mycelial network has, in some ways, destroyed the environment there a little bit, leaving their little pieces behind. So I think that's a nice comment on, as much as we like scientific advancement, sometimes we advance too quick to recognize the drawbacks of advancement. Mm-hmm. I like that subtle piece that they throw in there, but it's never really much commented on, I feel. And it doesn't really feel like it's a part of the story for the episode. It's just a little piece in the background. And maybe they're going to cover that later, but...
What's crazy is this isn't the first time. There was a Next Generation episode where they found out that the warp engines were tearing and tattering space. And they made a big deal about it in that episode where they were talking, well, we can only go warp 6 from this point forward because, the warp drives are causing this much trouble. You could clearly see the environmental reference that they were making with that. And again, just like you're pointing out, sometimes we advance so fast with the technology, we don't pay attention to what the impact is going to be, even when it's supposed to be our heroes. I thought that was a very powerful thing. Never mentioned it again. They never mentioned it again. And so, here we see it again coming back, and I'm like, oh, okay. This seems like a really big issue. Are we going to talk about the fact that we're, blowing through mushroom worlds now? We are tattering subspace earlier. Are we going to come back to this? So, yeah, it'd be nice if they did something more with that.
Yeah, and I guess they have their easy out that it was, I guess this was it Dr. Culber, did you say?
Yeah, Culber, yeah.
Yes.
That it was just him trying to protect himself, and that's what was messing it up, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what the plot was.
Yes.
We think, but I'm not certain that was the only damage. We're gonna say that that's the case, but I was suspicious that could be the only source of damage. But all right, we'll go with what they say.
Yeah.
Because a doctor with bark on him destroys this space, but a giant ship hurtling through routinely,
exactly,
with tardigrades hanging off of it. That's cool. That's all right. That's going to be fine. But the doctor huddling in a corner with bark smeared on him, that's devastating the subspace.
Yeah, it felt like they chickened out of having a kind of an ethical question just so they could turn to this, I don't know, somewhat pointless reunion. Like, did you guys feel impactful to have Hugh return here? I didn't really feel like it went anywhere.
I kind of did. Just because, like I said, I really wanted the character to come back. He was my favorite thing in season 1, perhaps. I don't know. I have to watch all season 1 again, but I think. And so I was really... I was happy for them to get reunited. Was it the impact of Mount Seleia and Search for Spock? No. But it was something.
I just remember that he actually actually fully came back. For some reason I'd forgotten until just now. I thought he died at the end of this.
No. They used. I mean, of course they used the cocoon.
Yes.
Because it definitely was disheartening when he tries to go through the barrier and he doesn't go through. Kind of like, did they do that with Moriarty on TNG? But and that was disheartening because if it would have ended like that and we can't pull you back, that would have been soul crushing.
Yeah.
But of course, just knowing that weird pod thing was there, you kind of knew that was going to be the conduit, the 3D printer to bring back Dr. Culber, who, again, 4 or 5 years into Discovery, I just learned his name is Culber. I knew they called him you, but I didn't realize his last name was Culber.
Yeah, so I guess maybe this is, once again, setting the groundwork for future stuff. Maybe they're going to comment on the environmental destruction and him coming back more as it goes along. So I guess, maybe I should hold off my frustrations.
Well, I Star Trek doesn't always do relationships well, but I thought Stamets and Culber was a reasonable relationship. Like I said, out of all the relationships in Discovery up until this point, theirs felt the most real. So to have them, to have one die, I was like, oh, come on. No, I didn't really care about any of the other relationships. Then that's the one you're going to mess up. So that was impactful. That, it was good to see those two together again. But, we went a long way, didn't we? We had
that, and I'm sure there was, when he was originally dispatched from the cast, I wasn't following the stuff at the time, but I'm sure there was people talking about fridging and like all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
At the time. So and not only are they the best couple up to this point in Discovery, spoilers, they may remain the best ever in the series, but I don't want to step on the future too much. Anyway, some other things though that pop up in this episode. I mean, it's supposed to be a big deal that Giorgio returns, sort of, and she becomes this. I mean, obviously we saw her more in the first season, but she does become this weird reoccurring pop-up character, almost like Q in a way. Not saying she's anything like Q, but just the way she just seems to pop up here and there. Now look, I love Michelle Yeoh. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just say that up front. But something I really noticed watching this episode last night, and it's been a while, the character, especially in this episode of Giorgio, is so girl boss. And I can't remember, is it because, or not because, but you guys refresh my memory. Is the Giorgio that we see in season 2, she's actually the mirror Giorgio from season 1.
Yes.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, Dark Universe Giorgio, right? Yeah.
Right. So she's not the original one, like in episode 1 of the series. Okay, so
and she was an empress, so yeah, definitely girl boss.
Right, she was an empress. Right, so fine. I guess we'll take that into consideration. She is from the Mirrorverse. She was a royalty. That being said, I can't stand the girl boss aspect of her character, and I know it's probably why a lot of people love her character in Discovery, and at this point, just not for me. Like, because she seems like a weirdly OP character personality-wise for me, walking around. And again, if you bring up she's from the Mirrorverse and they're all kind of wacky anyway, I guess that explains it, but I still don't like it.
Yeah. I also love Michelle Yeoh. I think she's doing what she can with this part, but she kind of feels like a character that's existing in a different show than what this show is. And I just feel like she's out of place. And she's got so much more charisma than almost everyone else around that it's sad that her character isn't really working with them. Because I feel like she could be saving this show, but instead she just feels like she should be in a different show.
So, and this is the other thing. I mean, this is another ongoing thing for me. So, Tilly, in general, has felt to me like if you had this Star Trek series Discovery, and then you had like this fan fictional character who represents all of us who are just regular people, regular geek nerd fan boys and girls, and Tilly is like our point of view character, and they're actually writing in an everyday flawed person and including her in the crew. That's Tilly. So she's already like a weird fan character embodiment. But then Giorgio, to me, is like a further extension of that, because she's like a fan fiction-y character on steroids who has been like written into the series. I don't know if that made any sense.
Well, why do you think? Well, why do you think she's fan fiction-y? I mean,
because it's the kind of thing that I would expect. Like, if I was writing fan fiction, I'd go, okay, I'm going to take the TOS crew, but I'm going to create this character and put them into my TOS fan fiction. And then, of course, that character would just stand out amongst like the other TOS crew who you know. And then there's this like overpowered character, not necessarily, in physical powers, but in personality or impact. And so it feels like something that fans would insert into something that already exists. That's my way of explaining her otherworldliness in this series.
Well, she is certainly super powered.
Yeah.
So I can see that into her, but she was a domineering queen.
I say fanfic because it's the kind of thing that when people are just, fan theorizing about, I would do this, I would do that, and you go, oh yeah, that sounds cool, but they would never do that like in the real show. That's how I kind of imagine these types of things, whether we're talking about Star Wars or Doctor Who or Star Trek. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to have this mirror universe character who's a girl boss, but that wouldn't really work in the actual show, except here it is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think the potential of her character is very interesting, and where we've been with her character, I thought was pretty exciting. That Starfleet's just cool with letting her hang around with this secret advanced organization and all.
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
That I see should be more problematic. If they did not know that she was from the mirror universe, that'd be one thing, and I think it would have a certain degree of darkness and an intrigue that I think would be kind of fun if they thought that she was just regular Giorgio and doing this. But they know she's, or some of them at least know she's mirror Giorgio, and they're like, let's keep her around. We'll give her extra power to let her do this other stuff. That I find a little problematic, but I don't find her disproportionate character any less inconsistent than other characters in Discovery.
That's fair.
Oh, I know that's fair. It's just she rubs me wronger than other characters in the show, I guess.
Wronger.
Yes.
Well, speaking of being rubbed wrong, I have never ever liked Section 31. I always thought that was a big mistake.
That's where I was going next.
That, to me, it does not fit with the Federation that we've known in any incarnation of Star Trek, except for Discovery. But even in Discovery, I think that they feel just, like, for one, I don't like that their ship had that, what was it, like, disguised as an asteroid?
Yeah, the cloaking, pseudo cloak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that immediately put me off. I was like, no, this doesn't fit. And yeah, just Section 31. I wish they would stop focusing on this. It should just be pushed away and forgotten.
Well, you guys are just going to be thrilled to know that they are going to make a movie starring Michelle Yeoh about Section 31. So buckle up, Trek fans, because that's coming.
Well, I'm thrilled in the sense that it's a movie and not an entire series. So I think it has better chance of me being okay with it if it's a quote-unquote movie than an entire series. But let me also say, yes, I cannot stand Section 31. There's so many things just about the concept I do not like. And like it feels so anti-Starfleet to me.
Yeah.
It feels like something like how the Kardashians
You always
had. I know. I can't remember what the Kardashian secret police were called, and then I know the Romulans have their own. I can't remember what these things are called. And why would
Obsidian,
Obsidian Order?
Yeah.
Why would Starfleet? It's so anti-Starfleet. It's so icky. It's so gross. It seems to go against everything Starfleet is about. Like, they're so seemingly cavalier. They can break all the rules. They exist in the shadows. Like, it really feels disgusting to me from a Star Trek point of view.
Yeah.
And then this guy Leland, I can't remember what backstory we had on him in the series up to this point, but just how he comes off in this episode, I hate these characters that are so smug and so like, I'm the cool guy in school who can do whatever he wants. It's gross. Oh God, I hate it.
Yeah. And I hate the scene where they make Pike like abase himself and apologize. Like, oh, I understand that the road that you walk is a lot more complicated, and so that justifies you being like a shitty dude. I just couldn't stand that scene.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like Carl has family who served in Section 31.
Yeah, I'm trying to reconcile a couple of things. For example, we have seen glimmers of what this idea is during Deep Space Nine.
Sure.
And they did it effectively there, even with our guy Cisco. Cisco bent some rules to, make things happen, which is in the spirit of what Section 31 is about. We've seen it before in Star Trek, but chronologically, or having a formal organization around this kind of shenanigans, I'm with you all. I find it uncomfortable, and it does not feel like what Star Trek has been about. Again, I'm just trying to draw some context. We have seen Star Trek go dark like this before with DS9, and they did it. I guess they did it well there. So we, I'm willing to give them a shot. I'm willing to see what they're going to do with this. But what we've seen of 31 is not cool. This is there's one. It's going one way to bend the rules to make stuff happen. You can kind of, there's got to be a valid reason why. And we have seen some shady characters here, and they don't justify this level of shadiness, particularly given the authority that Starfleet's given them. So a lot of people are very excited about Section 31. I never was. The people that they have here are not making me feel real good about what this group is about. And I'm not intrigued by them.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the way they made it work in DS9 was, it was like Section 31 had been so removed from the core of Starfleet by the time you get to the Dominion War, it's like it was almost forgotten. Just this very hidden part of Starfleet. So that almost made it work.
Yes.
That they were so far removed. I don't even think that they acknowledged that it was a part of Starfleet.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you look at it in that way, it's like the in DS9, like the audiovisual club in high school. Like, nobody really knows who they are. Like,
yeah,
no one knows who's part of that group or who meets up for like the ham radio group. But in Discovery, they're like these crazy Green Berets who are like, no one knows who they are, but they're the belle of the ball at the same time, and I hate it. And they have all the coolest toys and
yeah.
Ugh.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Into Darkness also get into Section 31 stuff? I don't remember.
Yes. I didn't remember, but I've been reading right now. So apparently that whole thing. Remember they had that top secret ship in Into Darkness?
No,
that was a Section 31 vessel. And so I was gonna say, good segue, Caleb. Well done. Because so the ship that they have, the Section 31 ship in this episode, it's the NCIA 93, whatever. Actually, weirdly okay with the exterior aesthetic look of it, even though it looks like a Star Trek vessel that has the saucer section detached, and it's just like the butt piece. But I'm still weirdly okay with that. But what I am not okay with, and I never was, and for some reason it bothered me more watching this episode now, I don't like the bridge at all because it doesn't seem to make sense to me, not only in Starfleet language, but just in practicality. It seems very, very convoluted, and I want to understand why it's designed the way it is. And it loosely reminds me of the baddie ship in the latter seasons of The Expanse. That was another bridge that never made sense to me either.
It just has a big pit in the middle for some strange reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hate it. I'm all for like radical bridge designs, but I don't see the functionality. It just seems like it would make things so much more difficult.
Well, are we sure that's the bridge? Are we sure? Maybe it's not the bridge.
I wasn't sure.
Well, it has a view screen. It's where the captain hangs out. There is a view screen.
Was there?
It seems like they control the ship from there, like the helmet, etc. It's the bridge, and according to the wiki, of course it is. It's a heavy redress of the Shenzhou bridge that they use for that set.
Okay, I don't remember.
Although I cannot see the Shenzhou in it at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. The weird pit is strange. I don't get that. Why have stairwells intersecting control panels?
Yes.
It's just weird.
And if they get into like some real serious, space fighting, etc. We all know how like intentional dampeners like to fail on any Star Trek vessel whenever they get into the rough of things. I can just see people flying off the upper level and tumbling all around,
rolling down those stairs.
It's gonna be a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the bridge. Like I'm looking at it right now, and this is a really good shot of it. 3657, and it's the bridge. It's just with the death pit. They should just go ahead and put some spikes at the bottom.
That would also let you know they're evil.
There you
got
go.
that going on.
If you fail, that's where they throw you.
Yeah, there's a weird view screen like up the upper ring. That is weird. I don't. Why you put a big pit in the middle of the ship like that is just beyond me.
Yeah, they took the Earth 1970s aspect of the sunken lounge area to the ultimate extreme.
Well,
yeah, and we haven't mentioned our return of our everybody's favorite character, Ash Tyler, back again.
Yes.
I feel bad for that guy. I mean, the actor and the character.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel so bad. Like he's just had to go through so much hell in this series.
Yeah, I can't say I was happy to see him. So yeah, I feel bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you work with a character like this? What do you do for it to bring it to life? I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a little late for that because he was supposed to be significant in the first season, and broke the heart of the lead character, and then did some weirdness in terms of how he was representing the Klingons. It was that's a lot of weight to try to carry.
Well, I can't remember like the backstory of the character. Was the original person, was he killed when he was taken over by like the soul of the Klingon character?
I believe so.
So is he still the embodiment of the Klingon character? Did Burnham fall in love with the Klingon character, or did she fall in love with the human? I don't remember how that all works.
Maybe he became a hybrid.
That's the other thing. I'm not sure if that's what happened.
I think there was some hybrid action going on where basically it was supposed to have been a Klingon infused with the DNA and the embodying the body, but then like the consciousness of the human seeped in and corrupted the Klingons' full hold over him. It was
I just feel bad for the character. Like that's terrible.
Why go there? Well, what does that add? What Oh,
Well, it adds conflict, which is what we love in Discovery. Emotional stress, and I'm torn between two worlds, and the woman I love and my duty. And, of course, this is the ultimate source of tension. Why wouldn't it resonate with an audience?
yeah, it doesn't help when the Klingons look as terrible as they do in Discovery, but I guess we'll save that for another episode.
They went someplace special with that. Yes.
But I will admit, even though I really didn't like that scene when they forced Pike into working with this Leland guy, I did like the way that Anson Mount played that scene. I thought he handled that all really well as an actor. And I even think this Leland actor seems like he could have some charm to him. I just don't have any interest in this character. But
Well, you gotta love Anson Mount. He always brings something. He brings some maturity to stuff, and he adds a depth that you would not normally expect. So he does that all the time. That's why he's quite awesome.
He really is. He really is. And I know we've said it before, but I just love how, since now being in Star Trek a while now, I just love how, like, his Twitter is so awesome because he is just such an advocate for Star Trek, in general. And he's always doing cons. He's always interacting with people. His Twitter, I think, is a standout amongst like different Star Trek actors, etc. And similarly, the actor who plays Shaw from Picard, I mean, yeah, he also obviously just jumped into Star Trek recently, and he's another amazing person on Twitter and on the social medias. Is just like loving being in Star Trek, etc., and interacting with fans and everything. I just love it.
And also, just so happens they have some of the most interesting characters on the show too.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I mean, they are up there in the most interesting characters who have come up in the Paramount Plus era, certainly. Even though Pike existed before, but you know what I mean.
yeah, and they gave Pike a little speech here, kind of emphasizing the values of Starfleet, which I thought was a nice contrast since we're seeing so much Section 31 crap. I was like, this is nice, at least. One of the few highlights for this episode overall.
Gives the fans someone to stand behind, because, Section 31, it feels really dark, and it doesn't feel like a lot of good's going to come from that. So we need somebody, holding the line of what Star Trek is supposed, the true spirit of what Star Trek is supposed to be about.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've been avoiding getting to this because I really don't want to pick on this actress, but the returning to May and seeing more with her working with Tilly, and I guess they hint that she might be coming back more in the show. I was really hoping this would be the end of her run here, because oh boy, I haven't liked anything she's been doing with this character at all, and this episode just continued that. I think a lot of her scenes with Tilly are just really not great at all. So
I'm indifferent, but I don't, it's very difficult to align with someone who, who kidnaps you. If that's supposed to be the sign of, the first gesture of trying to get along with someone, I'm going to possess your body, and then I'm going to kidnap you. Come around to see my point of view. Not winning folks over with that kind of start.
Yeah, and I feel like they had an opportunity to kind of sell us on it, like, oh, the Discovery crew, you guys are so arrogant that you didn't realize or didn't care about the impact that this technology would have on us. But yeah, I never felt like I was siding with her, and we didn't really get to see much of the rest of their planet. They had like one little moment, or I guess not planet, but dimension.
Yeah.
This one little moment where we see these little buzzing little balls of light. It's making me think of Caravan of Courage. If you guys remember that scene, I don't know why I brought that out. But yeah, and she speaks to him as if they're characters, and I was like, okay, at least they're trying to tell us that she's not the only intelligence here, but it really was not playing that stuff for me.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere between both of you on May, or maybe I'm not. She is absolutely obnoxious. There's no question about that. And God, her insistence on, we got to kill the monster. and all that.
Yeah.
She says like the most inconvenient things at the most inconvenient times in terms of the story. Now, that being said, I know she looks like a human, but obviously she's not a human. She's just taking the form. So if we take it as she is this foreign species who is very different, who just flutter around as these little light sources, like almost like space fairies or something. Okay, if we take it as she's literally from another dimension and doesn't really understand our world at all, I guess that weirdly gives her a pass. As to her innate, because you're like, why don't you get it? You almost want to shake the character and go, haven't you ever watched Star Trek before?
Oh, no.
Don't you realize that he doesn't mean any harm? Like, don't you know anything about sci-fi? But like, that doesn't work. And especially not for a character from another dimension. So she weirdly gets a pass. It's just difficult because she obviously does look so human in that form. It's just, yeah. Every time she started shrieking in the episode, I had to shake my head. And every time Leland was hoisting his testicles around, I had to like shake my head as well. And Georgia with her testicles as well.
Oh no.
It was just because there's plenty of elements in this episode that I enjoyed and wanted to enjoy more. It's just these weird distractions for me.
Yeah. No, yeah. I if I was gonna, I don't know if we're near the rating yet, but I feel like this is on the same level as the last one. Like it's fine, for especially for Discovery up to this point. I feel like this is straight down the middle. Like this is okay Discovery, but yeah, lots of little bits in there that just don't quite work.
I don't know if we're all the way to final thoughts, but no. This one's a bit more for me. There's a bit more going on in this episode overall in a positive way as compared to the previous episode.
I just think the most important part in this one was the reuniting of the couple. There's a lot of stuff that was going on in terms of Section 31. It was good to see Giorgio back, but I think the A plot was supposed to be the Stamets and Culbert getting back together.
But yeah, remembering now that Stamets and Hugh are going to be reunited going forward, that is something to hold on to, because they were definitely one of the bigger positives in that first season.
Mm-hmm.
One of the few for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that right there definitely made the whole thing worth it. And as much as I loathe Section 31 in general, it does help to see what else is going on in the galaxy in the moment. Where this is almost a bottle episode itself in a weird way, but not as much as the previous episode. Where even though we haven't got to Spock yet, at least we're still checking in with other happenings, and that's worth it, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, they're building. This is part of the arc.
Yeah. Go ahead and chamber your final thoughts if you have more to say. But once again, I know she's in the background, but our science officer, played by Rachel Anshariel, I love her skirt, her mini skirt in her costume. And I don't know if she had it all the time up to now. I just didn't notice it until this episode. How she's wearing the mini skirt with the trousers underneath. I think it's a great look. I think it looks really cool. So I like her outfit. But also, I didn't realize until this episode of the podcast, we had the same birthday. I don't think the same year, but we share the same birthday, she and I. So I love her even more.
Oh, that's interesting.
So wait, which science officer? Who are you talking about now?
No, security.
Security.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah. I love the miniskirt look over the trousers. I think it looks fantastic. They need to do that more in New Trek. It looks great. What?
Nothing.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who picked up the apple in the hallway. That bugged me, right? The ladies are having the disagreement. They dropped the apple in the hallway. Did Burnham pick that up? Did Giorgio come back for that? Did the robot get it? I don't know.
There's probably a deleted scene with the comedy relief alien. He picked it up and tried to suck in one of his sinuses.
There you go. I see. That's why he's always sick. He's just picking stuff up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, but should we use apples, Eric, in the final rating? How many apples out of 5?
Sure.
All right.
I'll go ahead and go first this time. Actually, for me, this is 3 out of 5. I like this couple. I mean, Hugh and Stamets. One of the things I've always been positive about in Star Trek Discovery. So glad they're united. As clunky as it was here and there, I mean, making it happen, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, we got it. Please, I hope Spock's in the next episode, but we're okay. We're okay.
Well, it was visually quite amazing. Well, we got to see into the realm of the mycelial, so that was an interesting journey. Like I said, I embraced the fantasy of it. I'm still having problems reconciling the technological consistency of it, but hey, at least we got a little bit more insight into what that space was like and that there are beings and whatnot living there. So that was kind of interesting. Of course, the crescendo was seeing the boys together again, so that was nice. But out of the 5 apples, I'm going to give it 3.
Yeah, I think I spoiled earlier that, I'm still going with a 2.5. I wouldn't say that this is a bad episode by any means. And I feel like this one actually has a lot more potential than the last one. There's just those little bits in there that I just don't care for. Like most of the May and Tilly scenes, I just feel like did not live up to the concept, and I found the interactions a little bit annoying. And like I mentioned, all the Section 31 stuff, that just kind of puts me off. Like most of those scenes, I was just kind of like, oh man, like we're spending so much screen time on this stuff. Like this is just not helpful for making me embrace this series as real Star Trek. But again, for Discovery, I mean, especially compared to season 1, which I just could not stand almost any episode, this is much, much better. So I'm okay to be here if I'm forced to be.
So 2.5.
2.5, absolutely.
It's all good. We got room to grow with the rest of this 14 or so episode season.
Yeah, and I remember there was at least one of the first batch of the 3 that I think I gave maybe a 3 or a 3.5. There was one I remember liking quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it. I hope everyone enjoyed going back to Discovery as much as we did. And we will continue this at some point. But hopefully next time on the feed, we will be back to Picard. We got still plenty to go through with that series. So look forward to that. But closing out the show today, this is Eric.
This is Carl.
And this is Caleb.
And until next time,
I would like the ship to go now.
Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
Now.
Oh.
okay, right.
That's it.
Yeah, very
That's
nice.
the funny Spock moment from the trailer.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'll say, just because I probably won't mention the episode, but it was funny watching this 5th episode right after I watched Tomorrow Never Dies yesterday. So it's kind of fun seeing Michelle Yeoh, those very different points in her career.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to remember what the connection was. I forgot Yo was in there.
Yeah. I wasn't sure either until you reminded me. I mean, that is nuts. I mean, the Bond thing, but oh man, I was podcasting with like Sean and Josh not too long ago, and Michelle Yeoh's name came up, and they're like, yeah, I can't believe she went from her career starting like in James Bond till getting nominated. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? That was not the beginning of her career. Maybe in the West or the United States.
Well, I guess that's fair. Maybe that was their first exposure.
But I was like, no, she has many movies before Die Another Day. Good grief.
Scamps. Yeah, and I just saw her maybe a month or so ago in the theater seeing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh wow,
And that movie still holds up very well, especially in a big screen.
that's a fine motion picture. I love that. I saw it in the theater. I think I got it here on Blu-ray. So yeah, that's a good one.